welcome back to my channel. My name is Sierra, and today I want to work on this mold. I love this mold. I've done this with blue flowers, and now I want to do it with the purple flowers. So I got my flowers. They're just fabric flowers. I believe I bought them, how about these years ago? I think I got them on AliExpress. But if I can find flowers, I will link it. And I have some fabric flowers. Now these are a little bit smaller than the ones I used before. I'm still gonna try it this way, or I might just cut it in half because I want to see it, the leaves in there. What I'm gonna do different with this is I'm going to show how I sanded this down on the blue one. See how smooth that is? And when I pulled it out of here, it wasn't that smooth. So I'm going to show how I sanded that. I have a little over an ounce of resin mixed up here, and I have two different shades of purple. This one is just an off-brand. I don't know where I got it. This is a Martha Stewart glitter. I believe I got this from Tuesday Morning. I don't even know if Tuesday Morning is still a thing. And I want to mix some of this glitter. I don't like opening glitter on my craft mat. I mean, it's not a big deal. I'm going to get glitter everywhere anyway. Just going to try and stop it from going everywhere. And I want to mix some of that. This is the one that goes everywhere. And some of that. And let's see what we got. I just don't like the gritty feel of glitter. That is pretty. Do you see that? That's really pretty. Yep, I think I want to brighten it up a little bit with this one. Just a little bit more of this. A little bit more, and I dump half of it in there. Huh? Oh yeah, that's pretty. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to do a wax seal later on. And this one, I'm going to use it's a 3D bumblebee. I love bumblebees. Bumblebees and butterflies. Those are my two favorite insects. Those are the two. I just love them. I love bumblebees and butterflies. And now I'm just going to, let me pour some in the bottom of this one. That is so pretty. I just want to cover the bottom. I will not be turning my heat mat on because I want to be able to come in and sit my flower and my leaf down in here before it cures up. And this I'm just going to pour it down. I will be cleaning the sides off. Okay. I can go a little bit more, not much more. Let me squeeze. Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna leave it alone. And then once this sets up enough to put the flower in, I will be back. All right, this is cured enough. I'm gonna get one of these, and I'm going to cut it in half. And I already have my flour. And I have an ounce of resin here. Let's see, I'm going to dunk this in. Let me get some tweezers. I'm going to dunk that in. Soak it. And then hopefully I'll be able to pick these up because it's kind of slippery. I'll set it in there. I think I'm going to have to get my hands in it. Yes, I think so. Come on. Okay, let's get this one in there. That's going to go that way, like so. I'm going to dunk this flour in. I want to get the whole flour coated. There we go, just like that. I'm going to set it in there like that. I'm going to push it down. So I don't want this poking up. That's going to a little bit. I'm just going to press it down the best I can. I wonder if I could cut that off a little bit more. No, that's down. That's cut. That's good. Okay, we'll get it. Now I'm going to put some resin in. I'm not going to fill it all the way. I do want to get some resin on this flour. Like so. So I'm going to put something on it, and I don't want the resin to squish out the top of the mold. Get the rest of this out. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I see some bubbles forming in there. Way down. So there they go. Come on up, little bubbles. So I'm just going to be doing this until I don't see any more bubbles popping up through the leaves and the flour. I will be sanding this piece later, so I'll just put some alcohol in there. Gotta get some more in there. And I will not be turning my heat mat on. I'm going to let this cure all on its own because I want the bubbles to rise. So, gotta wipe all my tools off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, make sure it's clean. I'm going to take this and I'm just going to set this over the top like so. I'm going to take these silicone mixing spatulas or sticks or whatever. I'm just going to place that over the top to prevent the flour from floating up. I will check this periodically for bubbles, and then once this is cured, we'll come back and do the next part. So I will see you in a second. Okay, this is cured. This is the flour, and we got this here. I got 5 ounces of resin mixed and poured, and I want to add a little bit of the Mayspring Dazzling Diamond, just a little bit. And while we do this project, I want to talk about this woman that I got to know. I'm just going to put a little bit in there. Too much will overtake your project. So I want to talk about this elderly woman, Mrs. Johnson. I met her, got to know her. She was very special to me. She would call every night. Sometimes she would call the police 911 multiple times in the day, for a prowler, somebody trying to break into her house. And never has there ever been a prowler or anybody trying to break into her house. And at first, we got people outside cutting the grass, so you might hear that. At first, I was getting frustrated because I'm like, why is she calling? It's a waste of resources. We know there's nobody there, but of course we have to check it out because, God forbid, she calls and nobody shows up, and then we find out that, yes, there was somebody that was prowling and just waiting for the police not to, get tired of her calling, not show up and hurt her. And we didn't want that. But I will admit that it was frustrating. Especially for me, I was a new officer. I was probationary, so I didn't really get to talk to her much. I was just there just to take the notes while the senior officer did the talking. So I was probationary for 6 months, and then I'm going to transfer some of this into a smaller cup so that this doesn't cure too fast on me. So then I was now pretty much had in charge of my own car. Grab my scissors. And now I'm working. I think I was working afternoons at the time. And I'm just going to cut some of these off. Afternoons. And at first I was just answering the call to I got to know her, Mrs. Johnson, and I would tell her there's nobody here, I'm going to check. And this would go on this went on for months when I started talking to her. And I learned that she was completely blind. And she was, if my memory serves, she was in her 80s. And so I have an elderly woman, a blind elderly woman in her 80s. And I don't know if you guys know of the manager, Mike Tyson's old manager. What was his name? Don King. And his hair, that hair that stood up on end, looked like he was scared, seeing a ghost or something. His hair is always funny to me. But anyway, Mrs. Johnson had hair similar to his. She was going bald. Her hair was white, and it just stood up on end. So finally one day, I decided I'm going to talk and find out what is the source of her fear. Why is she calling? What is she so scared of that she's going to call 911 multiple times a day to get the officers out there? What is driving this? And I quickly learned, pour some in here. I quickly learned that it wasn't about being afraid that somebody was trying to break into her house or get into her house, or it had nothing to do with that. She was scared. She was lonely. It all come down to being a lonely old lady. She would have a nurse that would come in and prepare her meals and set up her medication. And then at the end of the day, the nurse would go about her happy way, which I'm not faulting nurses at all. They're busy. I'm sure this nurse did everything to help Mrs. Johnson. I'm going to try and push this down a little bit. It's probably going to be kind of hard because it's cured resin. You can try. So I'm not faulting the nurse. I know the nurses did the best they could with her. You know, they can't sit there and babysit this woman. You know, so once the nurses left, and they were with her a good portion of the day, they'd make her meals. I don't know if it was nurses that made her meals or if she had some organization that would come in and take care of her, make her meals. But I do know that she had nurses that would come in and take care for her physical state. And then these nurses, they would leave, and then, or her home care service would leave, and then the calls to 911 would begin. And when I found out that this woman, this elderly woman, this blind elderly woman, was calling out of loneliness, it broke my heart. It broke my heart. So now I made it my mission to make sure that I'm going to get messy here. I made sure that I would, if I could, because there were some nights that it was just too busy to, you know, actually do a full check. I'm going to pour some resin in here. Do a full check on her to make sure that, you know, everything was okay. I mean, I would drive by and I would tell her this, you know, I'm going to drive by, I'm going to shine the lights on your house and, you know, let you know that I'm out there. And surprisingly, the calls stopped, and I would, when I had the opportunity and I had the chance, I would stop by her home every night. I hope that's not that train. I'll be back as soon as that train goes by. Okay, I don't know if that was a train. It might have been something else. But I would make it a point to stop by every night and talk to her. And I got to know, you know, that she liked peppermint. That was her favorite candy. So I made sure, I'm going to put some more resin. There's not enough resin in here. So I would make sure I would bring peppermint candies, you know, and around Christmas time I would take candy canes and stuff like that. And I would notice that she would, some of her candies, like, you know, her peppermint candies and stuff like that, they'd fall on the floor under her dining room table. And she would tell me she needed more candy. And I'm like, no, Mrs. Johnson, it's under the table. And I would get under the table and get the peppermint candy out for her and, you know, make sure her medicine, because she would take her medicine and she'd get them all mixed up from, you know, the days that she had to take her medicine, you know, the hours that she would take her medicine. She would have, sometimes those would be mixed up. So I would arrange her medication for her, and she would ask me about my kids, and my kids at the time were small, and she wanted me to come and spend the night with her. And I would tell her, you know, that I can't do that because for one, you know, my kids grew up in the city for a portion of their life, and then we moved them from the city, and I wasn't comfortable dropping my kids off in that neighborhood and then me go on patrol and then expect this elderly woman to take care of the kids. And, you know, so I would talk to about my family with her. And so one Christmas, now I'm getting, this went on for a couple years. every night, Mrs. Johnson. I'd go check on her. I'd find, take her favorite food, and I would spend as much time as I could during a shift, which some days it would be just a few minutes, and some days I could actually sit and spend some actual quality time with her, because depending on the time of year, especially in the winter, that precinct was very slow. I learned a lot in that precinct because it was slow. I learned the proper way to do paperwork. I wasn't being rushed by dispatch wanting to know my status or, anything like that. I could actually take my time. So let me wipe my hands off. So that's how it was. So now, the only time I didn't get to check on her was when I worked undercover. But even then, on days that I wasn't working undercover, I was working plain clothes. I was working our special operations. And I because I was the only female working special ops, and I had the guys I worked with, they knew, because I told them all about Mrs. Johnson. So, like I said, we would go by and shine the light on her house just to let her know that we're there, and whenever I could, I would still stop in and see her, but when I was on patrol, which was the majority of my career there, I talked to her nightly if I could. So now I'm getting ready to transfer out to another precinct, and the precinct I'm getting ready to transfer out to, it's the neighboring precinct, but it's not like we can jump from precinct to precinct. We had our precincts that we were to patrol in, and it's not like you can just I'm gonna go check on Mrs. Johnson and drive 20 minutes outside of your precinct to go check on her. That's very frowned upon, because they want you in the precinct that you're assigned to. If you go out of your precinct and then it hits the fan in your precinct and you're not there, well, where were you? And it sounds good to go, well, there was an elderly lady that I was checking out. That sounds good, but it's not practical. It really isn't. So I knew this. So it was close to Christmas, and I was getting ready to go on furlough. I always took my furloughs around Christmas. So I took this one officer that I knew would check up on Mrs. Johnson. He's still on the department. He's now a supervisor. But he was the type of person that I knew would take an interest in Mrs. Johnson. So we went. And it was, like I said, close to Christmas. I was getting ready to go on vacation, but it wasn't happening fast enough for me. I was hosting a Christmas party for my family. And when I say for my family, we're talking 50, 60 people would show up at this Christmas party. And so I still had that to do. It's just a week before Christmas. I still had Christmas presents to purchase and wrap, and there was a lot going on, and I was stressed. I was very stressed. I was very frazzled. I just wanted to get home and get going on my vacation and get Christmas started and done. So I take this officer, I don't want to say his name. We'll call him James. James, you'll know who I'm talking about. He'll know who I'm talking about. So I take James to meet Mrs. Johnson. And we get there, and she invites us in, and right away James looks at me because he sees this little lady. She looked like a little bird, She was very skinny, the Don King hair, blind. And she heard my voice, and she had this big smile, and we go in, and we're sitting, and we're talking to her, and I'm explaining to her that I'm going to be transferred and that Officer James was going to be taking over, checking up on her, that he was going to check up on her and make sure that, you know, she was stocked up on her peppermint candy, and he knew what her favorite foods were. He knew everything that she liked and the medicine she took, and I was walking James around showing him stuff, you know, the stuff that was important to Mrs. Johnson, because I just didn't want her to feel like I abandoned her. So she sits us down and she proceeds to tell us about her Christmas. How her Christmas used to be back in the day. She had outlived her children. I believe she said she had 6 children. This was a long time ago. But I believe she said she had 6 children. She was married for 60 years, and she outlived all of them. She outlived her children. She outlived her husband. She was alone, and she was just sitting there. I had this woman, and James was sitting across the room. You know, he was sitting over here. I'm sitting here, and Mrs. Johnson sitting here. So it's like a little triangle. And she's telling us about her family, her kids, and about how Christmas morning was for them, and opening the presents, and how times were tough, but her and her husband still made the best they could for their kids, and she was just talking about her Christmases that she remembered with her family. And I started crying, not like sob cry. I don't even know if she could tell I was crying. And I started crying, and it put everything in perspective for me. My Christmas, everything, you know, I kind of like realized that what I was stressing over was really stupid. I mean, I was stressing over first world problems, you know, and if I was to be in Mrs. Johnson's shoes, I don't think I would remember stressing over that stupid stuff. I would really realize how silly I was being. This looks like I have 2 of them there. I guess when I squished it. So I realized how silly I was, how silly I was handling Christmas. And I'll tell you what, listening to her removed all stress. I was actually looking forward to spending my Christmas with the kids, and I always looked forward to it. I was just stressed. We all get stressed. And I just wanted to get Christmas over and done. But hearing her talking about her husband and how, you know, he always made the Thanksgiving bird. She said it was, I don't know what kind of bird, if it was a chicken or turkey or duck, I don't know. She just said that he liked making the family bird at Christmas, and how they always, you know, even when times were tough and money was hard, and she was just going in about how she misses her family, she misses her husband, and she's looking, let me get a baby wipe, and how she's, hold on, and how she's looking forward to seeing her family again. And she broke me. This old lady broke me. I mean, and then I look across at James, and he's, you know, doing this, you know, like with his hand like to his neck, like to have it stop. And I look at him, and I got this big guy. He's got tears flowing down his face. And I didn't want to jump up and leave her in the middle of her story. And she's just, you know, talking, and she's got this beautiful smile on her face with her memories as she's remembering her kids and how excited they were, and then, you know, I didn't ask. I wish I did, but I didn't think of it at the time. If she had any grandchildren. I mean, now I would think of it because I have grandchildren, but at the time I didn't. So when you don't have grandchildren, you don't think to ask, well, do you have grandchildren? It's just not. You guys would understand. You grandparents would understand that that is not on your radar until you have grandchildren. At least it wasn't for me. So I don't want to put too much in here because I want to put some glitter on the bottom. So I was she took the stress away from me, and my Christmas stress, you know, and she made me realize how ridiculous it is that we stress over these things when there's bigger problems, there's bigger issues. Let me clean this up and I will be right back and we'll continue working on this. Okay, I want to make my wax seal. And I'm going to start the candle with my giant flame. Okay, I want to do 6 of these. Let's do 8. It's a big wax seal. And so was in contact with James. I still talk to him on Facebook and stuff like that. And he kept up checking up on her, and he took over making sure that she was okay, making sure that she wasn't lonely. And she kind of she taught me a lesson. This little old lady taught me a lesson, is not to stress over stupid things, especially when it comes to the holidays and family and stuff like that, because be thankful you have them. You know, she didn't, and it broke my heart. So she did end up passing away, just not even 6 months after I had transferred out. And I just hope that, well, I know that she's with her husband and her children. I know she is. She's probably one of the most kindest hearted people, most genuine people that I've met. And I've met a lot of people. But yeah, Mrs. Johnson, you know, I don't want to bring my channel down or anything like that, but, you know, she pops into my head every now and then, and I don't even know if she knew that she was teaching me a lesson, or if she knew that I was stressed out, you know. Maybe she could tell in my voice. I don't know. Maybe she just wanted to share a Christmas memory with somebody. I know she didn't have people to talk to. I know that. Make sure I'm in frame. I'm going to put this puddle. I know it's a big puddle, but it's a big wax seal. Put this back on there, and then I'm going to try and center the push and wiggle, 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 push. Let that set up. And now what you want to do is you want to take a paper towel. You don't want to use a baby wipe for this, because the wet baby wipe, the heat will conduct right through it and burn your hands. You might as well be touching this with the bare hand. A dry paper towel. Dry hands, dry paper towel, and you wipe your little spoon out. Don't use a wet baby wipe. The heat will conduct right through it, and you will hurt yourself. So there's that. Let me move this without dropping that candle on my lap. I made this one earlier because I didn't know how this was going to turn out on camera, because we all know who do videos, but what you do prior to turn on the camera turns out great. Turn on the camera and it's wonky. So let's pull that back. I personally like this one better, so we're going to go with this one. One thing good, this one did not turn out bad at all, I'm going to save it. But if it did come out really bad, you can take your scissors and cut up the wax and reuse it. That didn't turn out too bad, but I do like this one better. And it's a 3D. Now I was going to use this. I'm not sure if I want to, so we will hold off on that. I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to turn my heat mat on. I want the bubbles to keep rising. I don't want them to get trapped in there. Same with this. And then once this cures, because I can see a multitude of bubbles in here. So once this cures, I will come back and we will do the glitter. We'll go with the glitter round. That's what we'll call it, the glitter round. Okay, this is cured. I am going to mix the purple glitter in the resin. I have just under 2 ounces, which is, oh, that's a lot of resin, lot of glitter. 2 ounces of resin. Sorry, I'm winded. I was just moving stuff around. That's a lot of glitter, boy. Whoo-wee. This one would be husband approved for sure. I didn't need that much glitter, but we're there. Me and my husband are getting ready to go out and have an ice cream. What kind of ice cream do you guys like? I like the Michigan black cherry. That's my favorite. So I'm just going to fill this up until it's domed. I'll probably have extra resin as usual. Not a big deal. I always have molds off to the side. I just want to make sure that this is coming up. Let me see. Let me take a peek from the side. This could probably take just a little bit more. Take another peek. That's good. I'm going to hit it with some isopropyl alcohol. And now I'm going to let this cure, and once it's cured, I will be back for the demold. All right, these have cured. We're going to demold them. I'll start with the lid. Okay. And there is the lid. See the ripples in it? It's from the flour. I'm going to sand that down. But we're just going to look at what we have, what we're working with. So a couple little bubbles in there. We're going to take care of those. But that's that. That looks so pretty. All right. Let's try. See what this looks like. If I have to, I can always sand the bottom of this, but I don't think I'm going to have to. Just a little bit of cleanup to do. It just falls right off. Let's see what we got here. Twist. There is that. That is so pretty. So pretty. That is just beautiful. There's a couple little air pockets in there, but we can always fix that if I wanted to. Doesn't go all the way through. I'm not worried about it. I will, this just picks right off. I can always take my deburring tool and do that, but I'm not going to worry about those little bubbles. If I want, I could always fill them in, but I'm not going to worry about those. They're not. But that is gorgeous. Let's see how this fits. It fits really nice. Oh, goodness. Let me just clean up this right here. So that is the purple one. I'm going to show how I sand this. And we're going to make this nice and smooth. Not sure if I want to go on the sides. I might. I probably will. So I'll probably get all that, sand the whole thing, and then we're going to put a little flood coat on that. And you see the ripples in that. We'll get that nice and smooth. So if you want to see that, just stick around and I will be right back. I'm going to put a layer of liquid latex on the bottom. And I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come in and we'll sand this. I'll show you how to sand and what I do. Okay? All right, the liquid latex had dried. I sped up the process with my heat gun. If you don't want to use liquid latex, you can also use PVA, like school glue. This is the sandpaper that I'm going to use. It comes in sheets like this. This is, I'm going to use a 320 grit. I'll have everything that I can find in the description box. What I do is I take my sandpaper and I just fold them and rip them. Because you don't need a big sheet. This is I don't know if it says it on here. Yeah, it's a wet dry. Wet and dry. You can use it wet or dry. Since I'm going to be sanding resin, I don't want the particles floating through the air. So we're going to wet down the sandpaper. I'm just using a little spray bottle. And then I'm just going to take this and I'm going to go in circular motion. And I'm just going to keep going. You just want it smooth. And see all this white that you're seeing? If I was using regular sandpaper, this white stuff would be floating in the air. I decided to take a little piece and just go around the edges. Just like so. So we're going to fix that with resin. That liquid latex just peeling right off. I'm going to put another layer on. Live and learn. Because usually I just put the liquid latex on after I do this. But I thought, I'll put it on first, see if that works. I got to add a little bit more water. And I have a drawer that I store all my sandpaper in. So I have a bunch of different grits. You can even go finer than this if you want. I have sandpaper up to 10,000. 10,000? Yeah, 10,000 grit. But I found that the 320 works good for this purpose here. I'm turning as I go. I'm not rocking it back and forth. You will flatten, you will square it up, and this is round. I'm gonna go, let me pull this off. I gotta put some new stuff on. It's kind of gross. Yeah, so let me go wash this off and I'll be right back. Okay, and what I do with the sandpaper when I'm done with it is I set it off to the side. I let it dry, because you can use that sandpaper over and over again. I let it dry and I just put it in a large Ziploc bag. Let's see what we got. Do you think I ruined it? That's what we got. So I'm going to put my liquid latex on again, and we are going to coat this. So let me put that on, let it dry, and I will see you in a second. Okay, I got this little plastic cup. Liquid latex is dry. I'm going to set this over the top of the cup, like so. I've got a resin, which is way too much for this, but that's what I did. I'm going to zoom in because I think this is pretty cool. I'm going to make sure I got everything I cut off there. Yeah. One thing good about the liquid latex too, it'll kind of like grip the plastic cup. So I'm going to take my resin and I'm just going to pour a little bit on there. And you should start to see the flower up here. See that? Put a little bit more on there. Trying to keep my hand out of the way. And the 320 grit is a good grit that I found. Like I said, you can go even, okay, the lower the number on your sandpaper, the coarser the sandpaper. The higher the number, the finer the sandpaper. So you can do, I've done as low as 120 grit. I mean, if you really want to sand this down, you can do an 80 grit, but then you're going to have to go 80, 120, 240, or whatever it is. And you're going to work your way up to the higher numbers because you want this to be smooth. And you don't want to see any, the lines, the sandpaper lines, you don't want any of that coming through on your finished piece. Because if you use, like if I was just to go in with an 80 grit sandpaper and go across this and then attempt to do this, you would see every line from that coarse sandpaper. It would define that gritty look. And that's not what I want. I don't want to see any lines. So I found the 320 grit sandpaper is a good working grit for this application. And I'm just taking resin and I'm just coating it along the sides because I want to make sure I get the sides. I'm trying not to knock it off, but I want to get all the sides. And you'll be able to tell because it'll grip your glove. Okay, that feels good. I'm going to pour some more on there just because I have it. I want the surface tension to break. And I'm going to go around one more time with my glove. And then if for whatever reason I put too much resin on, I can always do the little trick with the water and stretch out the top of that lid a little bit, but it shouldn't be. And I think that'll be it for this And then I'm just going to let this cure. I'm not going to turn on my heat mat. It's no need to. I'm just going to make sure I cover it so that if a fly or something happens to get in this room, I'm not going to come here and find a dead fly sitting on top of that. That would totally ruin it, wouldn't it? But there it is. And I will be back and we'll finish this off as soon as this is cured. So I will see you soon. All right, this is cured. I'm going to zoom out just a bit. And we're going to pull it off the cup. Move this out of the way. I'll leave that there because I'm going to take off the liquid latex off the back of this. It should just peel off, hopefully. I always get worried doing this, if it's going to work. And it always does. So I shouldn't have any that stays on the bottom. See, that pulled all that resin off. All right, I'm going to remove this. We're going to bring this in. That is a nice fit. Now let's finish off. I got my heat gun. I got my glue gun. My liquid fusion. I got my silver cord. And we're going to do this. Pull this off. All I'm going to do is I'm going to find, I use a lot of this silver cord because it's so thin. So I'm just going to find the end or find the center like so. Doesn't have to be perfect. And now all I'm going to do is wrap it. And I will, once I get this wrapped completely around, I'm going to tie a knot and I will be right back. I'm going to cut these a little, this is frayed at the end. I'm going to cut that off. That's what we're going to do. Let's see if my glue gun is ready to go. It is. So I use the glue gun to hold while the liquid fusion is drying. I don't use it because it's temporary or permanent. I use it because of the fast hold. So I want this like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the liquid fusion on the jar. Let me see. Let me see where I need it. Because I want it to lay flush. I don't want it to lay on that. Yeah, we're just going to lay it, put it like right. As long as I have enough. This liquid fusion holds really good. It takes just a few minutes for it to dry. I want enough on there. And then we're just going to take a little bit of the hot glue, like that. And the hot glue will be a quick hold. And then the liquid fusion will be a permanent hold. So I'm just going to give that a few seconds for the hot glue to cool down. So this is the purple version of my flower jar. I do have a blue one. I really like this wax seal. I was waiting for the right project to use that wax seal in, and I think I found the right one. I love the contrast between the purple flowers and the glitter. I knew the flowers would turn a little darker once they got wet, just like with any fabric. It's going to turn darker. So I like the contrast. I like that I can see the leaves in the lid. As far as the sanding goes, did you learn anything as far as sanding resin? Do you have any pointers for me? I'm still learning in this craft, so if you have any pointers or tips, let me know in the comments. And also, let me know what you think about Mrs. Johnson. Do you know anyone like Mrs. Johnson? Have you met anyone like Mrs. Johnson? What was their impact on you? I know Mrs. Johnson had a great impact on my life. She continues to have that impact today. And I think her lesson, I will remember it for the rest of my life. So there you go. There's my purple version. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And to my subscribers, I truly appreciate you, and you have a great day, and God bless. Bye.